There's a saying in my family that the Pine Barrens of New Jersey can swallow a man whole, body and soul. My great-great-grandfather was the first to settle here, carving out a home in the endless sea of trees and silence. The land was thick with secrets, the air heavy with something older than time itself. The Pine Barrens are where the sun dies early and the nights stretch on forever. As a child, I would wander into those woods, daring the darkness to come for me. My father warned me about the deeper parts, the places where the trees grew too close and the ground seemed to breathe beneath your feet. But the stories didn't scare me, until they did. The legend of the Jersey Devil was not just a tale to frighten children. It was a warning, one that my family had carried for generations. A creature born of darkness, with wings like a bat, a face like a twisted nightmare, and eyes that burned with an unholy light. Some said it was a curse, others that it was a punishment for sins long forgotten. But all agreed on one thing: it was real. I didn't believe it, not until the night it came for me. It was late October, the kind of night where the wind whispered through the trees like 1,000 voices. I couldn't sleep. The cabin was too quiet, the air too thick with an unseen dread. I grabbed my flashlight and decided to take a walk, to chase away the feeling that something was wrong. I didn't stick to the trails that night. I went deep into the woods where the trees grew tall and thick, their branches intertwining to block out the sky. The deeper I went, the more the forest seemed to close in around me, the silence pressing against my ears like cotton. That's when I heard it. A sound that was both a scream and a roar, echoing through the trees, vibrating through my bones. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was something else. My legs moved on their own, carrying me toward the sound. The trees thinned out, and I found myself in a small clearing bathed in cold, sickly moonlight. In the center was something that shouldn't have existed, a creature from the darkest corner of my nightmares. It was the Jersey Devil. Its wings stretched wide, the leathery skin torn and ragged, its body twisted and hunched like a man who had forgotten how to stand. The face. God, the face. It was a grotesque mockery of a horse, with eyes that glowed a deep, malevolent red and a mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth. The devil turned its head toward me, its gaze locking onto mine. I was rooted to the spot, unable to move, unable to breathe. The air around me grew cold, a freezing wind that cut through me like a knife. The creature opened its mouth and let out a scream that shattered the night, a sound that ripped through my mind, leaving nothing but terror in its wake. I don't remember running. I don't remember finding my way back to the cabin. All I remember is the feeling of those eyes, burning into me, branding me, and the knowledge that the devil had seen me, had marked me. I burst into the cabin, slamming the door behind me, my heart pounding like a drum. My parents were already awake, their faces pale, their eyes filled with a fear that mirrored my own. "You saw it, didn't you?" my father asked, his voice low, almost a growl. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. The image of the devil was burned into my mind, every detail etched into my memory like a scar. My father's face hardened. "We need to leave. Now." What was that thing? I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he motioned for me to sit. My mother brought me a cup of tea, her hands shaking so badly that she nearly spilled it. "The Jersey Devil," my father began, "is not just a legend. It's real, and it's tied to this land, tied to us." I stared at him, trying to make sense of what he was saying. "Tied to us? How?" He sighed, the sound filled with the weight of centuries. "Our ancestor, your great-great-grandfather, was a man who dabbled in things he shouldn't have. He made a pact, a deal with something that should have stayed buried. And that creature, the devil, is the price our family has paid ever since." A cold, hollow feeling settled in my chest. "Why didn't you tell me?" We prayed it would never come to you," my mother whispered. "But the curse, it doesn't just go away. It gets passed down, from generation to generation. And now, it's your turn. I could feel my heart sinking into my stomach, the realization of what they were saying hitting me like a physical blow. The devil wasn't just a monster, it was a part of my family, a curse that I could never escape. "Is there any way to stop it?" I asked, my voice small, desperate. My father's expression was grim. "There's only one way, to leave this place, to go far away and never look back. But even that might not be enough." That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the devil, felt its cold breath on my neck, heard its scream tearing through my mind. I knew it was only a matter of time before it came for me again. The days dragged on, each one darker and more terrifying than the last. The devil was always there, lurking in the corners of my vision, hiding in the shadows of the woods. I could feel it watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. The nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the forest. Every creak of the cabin, every rustle of leaves sent a jolt of fear through me. I knew the devil was out there, circling closer and closer, like a predator stalking its prey. I started seeing things, dark shapes moving through the trees, shadows that didn't belong. The fear was eating away at me, slowly driving me mad. I couldn't tell what was real anymore, couldn't trust my own mind. Then, one night, it happened. I was lying in bed, drenched in sweat, my heart racing as I listened to the wind howling outside. Suddenly, the wind stopped, and the cabin was plunged into an eerie, unnatural silence. The kind of silence that suffocates you, that fills your ears and wraps around your throat like a noose. And then I heard it, a low, guttural growl coming from the other side of the door. My blood ran cold, my body freezing in place as the sound reverberated through the walls. It was the devil, right outside, waiting for me. I forced myself out of bed, my legs trembling, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I grabbed the knife I kept by my bed, knowing it was useless but needing something, anything to defend myself. The door creaked open and there it was, the Jersey Devil, filling the doorway with its monstrous form. Its wings unfurled, casting long, twisted shadows across the room. Its eyes locked onto mine, glowing with a malevolent hunger that made my skin crawl. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The fear was paralyzing, wrapping around me like chains, dragging me down into a pit of terror. The devil stepped forward, its claws scraping against the wooden floor, its breath hot and foul against my skin. I was going to die. I could feel it, the inevitability of it, the cold, hard fact that this was the end. The devil would tear me apart, devour my soul, and leave nothing but bones and blood. But then, something shifted in the room, a presence, something I couldn't see but could feel, like a sudden change in the air pressure. The devil stopped, its head snapping to the side, as if it had heard something I couldn't. It let out a low, menacing growl, its eyes narrowing, and then it backed away, disappearing into the night. I stood there shaking, my mind reeling, trying to understand what had just happened. The devil had spared me, but why? What had stopped it? I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I just sat there clutching the knife, waiting for the devil to come back. But it didn't. Not that night anyway. The next day, I found the box. It was hidden in the attic, buried under years of dust and cobwebs. A small, weathered box bound in leather and covered in strange symbols. I didn't know why I opened it. Maybe some instinct, some part of me that knew what I would find. Inside was a dagger, old and ornate, its blade sharp and gleaming despite its age. It felt heavy in my hand, humming with a strange energy that sent a shiver down my spine. I took the dagger to my father, showing him what I had found. His face went pale, his eyes wide with fear. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, his voice trembling. "In the attic," I replied, confused by his reaction. What is it?" He didn't answer right away, his hands shaking as he held the dagger. This is what our ancestor used. The pact. It wasn't just words. There was blood, a ritual, and this dagger was part of it. I stared at the blade, the realization dawning on me. This was what had stopped the devil the night before. This was the key to breaking the curse. But my father's face was grave. Using this. It's dangerous. The ritual. If you don't do it right, it could make things worse. I didn't care. I couldn't live like this, with the devil always lurking, always waiting. I had to end it, once and for all. That night I went into the woods, the dagger clutched in my hand. The trees loomed overhead, their branches twisted and gnarled, like the fingers of something long dead. The air was thick with mist, the ground wet and spongy beneath my feet. I reached the clearing, the same place where I had first seen the devil. The oak tree stood at its center, its ancient bark scarred with strange glowing symbols. The air was heavy with a sense of foreboding, as if the very forest was holding its breath, waiting. I knelt at the base of the tree, the dagger gleaming in the moonlight. I knew what I had to do, the ritual, the words, the blood. But as I began, something shifted in the air. A presence, dark and malevolent, filled the clearing, and I knew the devil was watching. I spoke the words, my voice shaking, the ancient language twisting in my mouth. The air grew colder, the wind picking up, swirling around me in a frenzy. I could feel the devil, its eyes burning into me, its anger palpable. I cut my palm, letting the blood drip onto the dagger, the blade glowing with a strange, eerie light. The symbols on the tree flared to life, pulsing with energy, the ground beneath me trembling. And then, it came. The devil burst from the trees, a whirlwind of darkness and fury, its wings beating the air, its eyes blazing with hate. It charged at me, its roar splitting the night, shaking the very earth beneath my feet. But I didn't move. I couldn't. The ritual held me in place, the power coursing through me, binding me to the spot. The devil reached me, its claws slicing through the air. But as it struck, the dagger flared with blinding light. The creature screamed, a sound of pure agony, its body convulsing as the light engulfed it. The air crackled with dark energy, the ground shaking violently. The devil tried to pull away, but the light held it fast, burning it, consuming it. And then, with a final desperate scream, the devil exploded into ash and shadow, the light swallowing it whole. The clearing was silent, the air still and heavy, the only sound my own ragged breathing. The devil was gone. I had won. But as I stood there, clutching the dagger, I knew something was wrong. The light was still there, still pulsing, and I could feel it. Something dark, something ancient, shifting inside me. The curse wasn't broken. It had just changed. The weeks that followed were a blur. I left the cabin, left the Pine Barrens, but the darkness followed me. The dagger, once a tool of destruction, was now bound to me, a part of me. I could feel its power, its hunger, growing stronger every day. I started seeing things, shadows moving in the corners of my vision, whispers in the wind. My dreams were filled with the devil, its eyes burning into mine, its voice calling to me, telling me things I didn't want to hear. The darkness was inside me now, a seed planted deep in my soul, growing, festering. I could feel it spreading like a poison, twisting me, changing me. The curse wasn't gone. It had taken root in me, and there was no escaping it. I became a wanderer, moving from place to place, trying to outrun the darkness, but it was always there, always with me. The devil had left its mark on me, and no matter how far I ran, I couldn't escape it. The dagger never left my side. It was my only defense, my only weapon against the darkness. But it was also a reminder, a symbol of the curse that had consumed my family. I knew I couldn't keep running forever. One day the darkness would catch up to me, and when it did, there would be no escaping it. The Pine Barrens still call to me, the trees whispering my name, the shadows waiting. I know I will return there one day, that the curse will bring me back, and when it does, I will face the devil again. But this time, I don't know if I'll be strong enough to resist. The darkness is inside me now, and it's growing stronger every day. The devil is waiting, and one day, it will claim me. And when it does, God help us all.